it is now absolutely certain that the Ukrainian forces in Southern Donetsk have completely disintegrated. The entire line south of Pokrovsk has fallen to pieces, and the Russian forces have made incredible gains in just the last 2 days. We're going to be going over all those plus the others. We're actually going to come to this front last. So we're going to start back where we always start, up in Kursk. Just a reminder, guys, so make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. This is Marshall Official. We're getting into the Russo-Ukrainian War update. Okay, I want to say this right now. Yes, I know I have not made an election update map in a while. It's been a good few days. And that's just because of the fact that the news we've been getting from Ukraine has just been absolutely major. Which, to be honest, this is the last time that I want that, because I want to focus on that election. Because we're like just over a week now from the election night. So we'll make a video on that tomorrow. I just need to focus on this right now and get this over, because I don't want to have a 2-hour long video. I also don't want to miss the major updates that I should be making for what's going on right now in Ukraine, because it's major. It is absolutely major news. So I just want to make this video, and then tomorrow I will make you guys an update on the election. And I'll be sure to focus on that for the next coming days, because we are very close now to election night. So I will be focusing on that more than focusing on this. But the news we've been getting here has just been so big, I had to make a video on it. So just start up here now, over here in the Kursk region. We saw ever since the last visit, the Ukrainian forces seem to be getting themselves back together in this front, at least for a little bit. Here, this is not okay. But this is not we do not have any changes on this part of the front line. This is not an advancement. This is a map correction. It was originally thought that Darino and Nikolaevo, it's covered up, whatever that says, Nikolaevo something, was under Russian control, and Russian force controlled up to right about up here. So the line was something like this. However, this was incorrect, and the Ukrainian forces actually still control the outskirts of both of these villages, and the Russian forces have really not crossed the river yet. So that was simply incorrect, and we just recently figured that out. So this is a map correction, not an advancement. This is just correcting the map to how it was all along. No changes from up here. Again, nothing. It's still uncertain what's exactly going on around here. Viktorovka is still in the gray zone. I have it in the gray zone. It's unclear. There's probably a lot of fighting going on here. We just don't have any updates to confirm anything yet. So that concludes the Kursk front. Just not much to talk about there. Move again. Volchansk and the Lipsy front. Absolutely nothing. This front is still effectively dead and forgotten. Moving on from that to the Kupiansk front. Again, we have no changes from this part of the front line. But where we do have changes comes from right down here. Out of the village of Vishiva, Russian forces have expanded their control around the village, and in general, it looks like they are in fact, or at least they could be aiming for the city of Borova. Russian forces at this point are only about, let's say, 8 miles away from the city. That is not that far. And especially when you consider in my last video, the Russian forces made major gains to the north. So they are within range of reaching Borova, especially when you consider they were able to make these gains over here. So moving on from that, we now reach our first geolocation we have. So that's up here on the screen right now. We have Russian forces made another advancement in Selydove. They're pushing down into Ternay now. And from there, once they take Ternay, they will then move on to Yampolivka. Eventually, all this right here will be in red. Everything that you see here will be in red. And the Russian forces are, as of right now, continuing their advancement, pushing south along this highway. They're using this highway as their key to advance southward, and they're going to keep following it until they reach, again, like I said, down here, where they will then move on to Torsky. Taking Torsky will allow them to move on to Liman. So now let's move on to the next part of the front line. Sever's front, we just have nothing from this front. This front is also quite quiet. There's nothing to talk about here. Moving on from that, we now move on to Bakhmut and the Chasiv Yar front. Nothing to talk about from this part of the front line. The Russian forces in my last video made a pretty significant gain. They were able to capture a pretty good chunk of the city and actually reach the city center. However, since that update, we have not received anything else confirming any further Russian gains. So we have nothing to talk about from this part of the front line. So we will now move on from this front line. We actually have a Russian gain and a Ukrainian gain. The Ukrainian forces actually made a very significant counterattack with the geolocation. So we'll put that on the screen now. The Ukrainian force made a very significant counterattack, and they were able to retake a huge chunk of the southern part of the city here. The Tourette's front has been pretty stable since for quite a while now. It's been on. The Russian force not really made any gains here since the start of the month. And now we have a major Ukraine counterattack here. And you want to know why this happened? It's because Ukraine still control the Terracons. These Terracons are the key to this battle, and the Ukrainian forces still hold on to them. So even though the Ukrainian forces are largely on the back foot, including on this part of the front line, they were still able to carry out the successful counterattack because they still hold these Terracons. Russian forces will need to make a move to take these Terracons soon, otherwise they will not be able to complete the Battle of Toretsk. Over here, we have another Russian gain right here around the town of Shcherbinivka, Petrovka, and Lyudnivka. Lyudnivka is already basically about to fall at this point. The Russian forces are already moving on to the next larger villages, Petrovka and Shcherbinivka. Once these fall, the Russian forces will have been able to reach all the way up to here, which is just a little bit away from the city of Konstantinivka. Russian force made a small little gain here in Shcherbinivka, not a little advancement, not that much to talk about there. But now we get to the big stuff. Oh, so there was a little Ukrainian counterattack that was able to recapture this Terracon right here, but that was then the Russian forces then undid it. So over the last couple days, 2 days, Ukrainian forces captured it, then the Russian forces recaptured it. So then that just undoes itself. And here comes the major news. It's actually three big things. Actually, you know what? Screw it. This whole Southern Donetsk front is all just one giant piece of news. Start up here in Selydove. We have basically the fall of Selydove. The Russian forces over the last 2 days kept on pushing further into the city. First it was this, and then it was this, and then finally it was this. And all of it just fell all at once over the last 2 days. And the Russian forces now control everything except this last little part of the city right here. This little outskirt of the city right there is all that the Ukraine still controls. Russian forces are also now advancing into Vishniva behind Selydove. And the major news now is because Selydove has fallen, the Russian forces will now be able to push along these train tracks and highways to push into Pokrovsk from the south. Russian forces have already begun to advance southward along this highway, moving towards, just like I said, I predicted that this was going to happen. Russian forces are already beginning to now push southwestward along this highway. They've already now entered the village of Novodimitrivka. Once this falls to Russian forces, they will then continue to advance along this highway towards this village, where it will then fall as well. They will then push southward and reach the reservoir, which will encircle all these forces right here, but it will also allow them to get behind the reservoir and hit Kursk from the west. So that's what Russia's doing. They're trying to push southward along this to encircle this, and then also push behind Kursk like that, which they are already in the process of doing with this advancement right here. And also, we do the geolocation. I showed that to you guys right now. We also have a small Russian advancement right here. They've also entered Kremina Balka, and they're in general, they are just pushing, like I said, along this railway. Like I said, they were going to. They are doing that right now, pushing along this railway to also, again, for the same purpose, encircle these forces over here. Russian forces were able to advance southward from Novoselidivka, pushing southward along both of these forest lines. In general, they're trying to, again, the same thing. They're trying to encircle Kharkivka, and they're pushing southward to do the same thing. It's one giant envelopment happening in several places. It's happening here, here, and here. And we now move on to the next two major things. Hirnyk and Oleksandropil have both fallen. Start off here in Hirnyk. Russian forces just in my last video were able to capture Izmailivka. They also were able to capture this huge chunk of ground over here. They were able to hold on to that. They captured the city of Zorane just in my last video. This all fell to Russia, including this land up here. And then from there, the Ukrainian forces either retreated or the Russian forces simply stormed it with everything that they had, and they captured the entire city of Hirnyk in one go. Again, there's geolocation. I'm showing it to you guys now. But after that happened, after Hirnyk fell, so did also Oleksandropil fell. There was also the geolocation we have of that. Oleksandropil fell, and Russian forces captured all the ground to the east of the Volcha River. All the ground to the east of the Volcha River is now in Russian control, and Oleksandropil is in Russian control as well. Now, the only state left is Kharkivka. This should be, at least on paper, a very powerful, defensible city. But there's one problem that the Ukrainians have with trying to hold Kharkivka. It's the problem that the Russian forces are way over here and way over here. Oh, so and way down here already. So Kharkivka is trapped behind all of this. And as the Ukrainian forces continue to hold on to Kharkivka, there is serious risk of being encircled, and that's probably why they gave up. They gave up Hirnyk and Oleksandropil to pull back to this bigger city. Which also, look at this terrain to the west. Everything here is incredibly defensible. This city is very defensible. Actually, I probably should put this in blue. This city is extremely defensible. So the Ukrainian forces, no reason the Ukrainians should not be able to hold this river. There's a river here, so hold the river line, hold the city, hold these terracons, and then also hold these tree lines. And behind them, have a second line where you can hold on to this very rough terrain. This looks good on paper. Again, the only problem with that is what happens if the Russian forces control, I don't know, all this. So that's the problem with this. And the Ukrainian forces are now likely to also give up this city as well. So the Ukrainian forces just lost 3 cities in the last 2 days, with another one about to fall as well. Because if Ukraine cannot hold on to this city, if they do, they're going to be in big trouble. Ukrainian forces will have, at this point, the smart thing for the Ukrainians to do is to retreat to here. Well, because the Russian forces are clearly pressing this entire front from here all the way down to here, the Ukrainian forces should retreat all their forces to behind this highway right here. The Ukrainian forces should give up all the land to the east of this highway, and should only hold on to the territory behind it, giving up all this territory to Russia. It sounds like a bad idea, but at this point, it's just too dangerous to hold on to that territory any longer. They should pull back to this highway, and they should also, of course, be ready to defend the city of Kharkova as well. So something like this. But that concludes this part of the front line. But that is not all. Not only has this front south of Polkrov completely just fallen to pieces, but it continues all the way around to the very end of Donetsk. It's the entire southern front. It's not just here. It's the whole front. The whole front. Everything below this line has just completely just fallen apart. Russian forces have also managed to advance in these fields and captured some tree lines south of Maximilivka. We already know about the pushes happening here in Katarnivka, capturing significant pieces of the ground. No further gains there today, but we'll probably see more in the future, very near future. Russian forces are going to capture a large 3.33 square miles and have now entered, or about to enter, Bohovia-Lenka. Remember, literally just at the beginning of the month, Volodar fell. Right down here. Now the Russian forces have, in less than a month, have advanced 5.54 miles. That's how far they've gone after falling with the fall of Volodar. Actually, if you start down here, it's 6.7 miles. That's how far the Russian forces have been able to advance. And they're about to storm Bohovia-Lenka. And in general, the Ukrainian forces at this point should probably give up all ground south of this line and should retreat to something behind this as well. Because at this point, it's just the Ukrainian forces were defending this territory here for so long that they just couldn't do it anymore. It's too hard. They just could not defend that territory, and the Russian forces have now broken through. And that's the small one, because we also have this gigantic advance right here. This is an 18 square miles. That is a massive advance. Just zoom out. Let's just zoom out and you can see the advancement for yourself. Here's all of Southern Donetsk, and just look at how massive these advancements are. And the Russian forces keep this up, they're going to capture all of Southern Donetsk. All of Southern Donetsk will fall. The Russian forces were advancing through this part of the front line. Again, the geolocation here, you can see it for yourself. They were able to capture all the ground, moving up to the villages of Novokranka and Shakhatrotsky. Once these villages fall, I was talking previously about the fall of Prichistivka and Zolotoneva, which by this also fell this month, Zolotoneva, because I thought the Russian forces were going to capture this and then push along this highway to Veliki Novosilka. Well, not only were the Russian forces probably still going to do that, but if Russian forces can capture this village right here, and in general just capture everything in this area right here, like this, then they will be able to push along this highway, but also this one. And even heck, there's nothing but open field, so they'll be able to get behind Veliki Novosilka and push south along this highway as well. So I thought the Russian forces were just trying to push along this highway towards Veliki Novosilka, but they've instead broken through completely. They made this is a river crossing. There is a river here. They crossed the river and captured all this ground, once the forces capture these villages right here, they'll be able to push to the west along this highway, and also from this highway here, and even push further and get to this one and push south along this highway. If we zoom out, consider this. Not only has all this territory fallen to Russia, but after Karakova and after we already know that Karakivka and Karakove are about, or sorry, most specifically, we know that Karakivka is about to fall. Karakove will be the next target. But after that, just consider this. There are no cities left in Southern Donetsk. That's it. After Karakove, that's it. Up here, we have Pokrovsk up here, but that's Southern Donetsk, but it's more like central Southern Donetsk. So everything's south of this line. So just look at the south of this line. There are no cities left, like at all. The biggest thing that we have, the closest thing that we have to a city, would be Veliki Novosilko. Oh, sorry, Veliki Novosilka, right here. That's it. The only other thing that stands out as kind of being like a city is Andrivka. But this is not a city. This is just a really big village. There's no high-rise buildings. It's just residential area. Like there's a house here, a house there. Like that's it. This is not a city. It's just a really big village. Once Russian forces are able to capture this and this, the only thing else, there's nothing left in Southern Donetsk. Southern Donetsk will be wide open for Russia's taking. Everything south of Kursk will fall to Russia easily. With the only thing sort of standing in Russia's way would be Veliki Novosilka, but that's it. After Veliki Novosilka, once this falls as well, then all of this is just wide open for Russia's taking. Everything. And of course, once Karakove falls, the most obvious thing to do is to just push all out into Southern Donetsk, with nothing stopping them. And of course, once they do that, they'll turn their attention back to Pokrovsk. So with that, we have it's well and true at this point. It is just well and true to say that the Southern Donetsk front is just over. It has collapsed. The Ukrainian forces are on the run. It is over for Southern Donetsk at this point, and it will be over for these two cities soon enough, probably before the end of the year. This one will probably fall. Heck, Kurakovka could fall tomorrow. Kurakivka could probably fall like tomorrow, and Kurakove could fall before the end of the year easily. Could easily fall before the end of the year, maybe even sooner. Probably sooner. But with that is your whole map update. But we didn't really get much political updates to really go over. The only thing that's really worth talking about is that the party, the one party in Georgia beat the opposition party in the elections today. That was important. Also, I heard there was also pretty news that Russia has invited Kazakhstan, and as Kazakhstan has now been welcomed into BRICS as a member. That's major. Still waiting to hear about what's going to happen with Turkey and Ethiopia. They're going to be able to join. We know Turkey was, I believe, and I'm pretty sure from what I heard, Turkey was at that meeting in BRICS. So still waiting on that. Belarus was also there. Still waiting on it. But Kazakhstan, at least from what I've heard, Kazakhstan is now part of BRICS. So maybe BRICS will be called BRISC now. Who knows? Or actually, no, they'll probably just put the K after the C and call it BRICS still. But anyways, I'm just talking about nonsense at that point. We just didn't get very many political updates. So that's your whole update, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. And stick around because tomorrow I will have an election video for you guys tomorrow. I'm going to focus on that from now on, almost solely until election night because it's coming up. It's coming up fast, people. Make sure you get out there and vote. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.